You walk into a store ready to replace that television that served you well for years, and suddenly you're surrounded by salespeople promising the world smart features, crystal clear picture, unbeatable prices. What they won't mention is that half these televisions are engineered to develop problems right after the warranty expires. Temperature sensors that drift, panels that dim noticeably by year 2, software that becomes unusably slow. The brands counting on your trust are the same ones quietly cutting costs in ways that only show up months after purchase. Today, I'm walking you through the 10 television brands that consistently disappoint owners, and the 2 that actually justify the investment with reliability that lasts. Starting at number 10, we have Westinghouse. This name carries weight from decades past, when American manufacturing meant something. That reputation is exactly what makes it dangerous now. The current Westinghouse televisions have nothing to do with that legacy. The name was sold off, and today it's simply licensed to whoever's willing to produce the cheapest possible product. What you're actually buying is a mystery box from rotating factories with zero quality consistency. Some units use panels from one supplier, others from completely different sources, and there's no way to know which you'll receive. The result is wildly inconsistent picture quality. Some sets show acceptable brightness and color, while others arrive with such poor uniformity that dark scenes look blotchy and whites appear dingy. The smart platform performs like it's running on outdated hardware, which it probably is. Menus lag noticeably, apps take forever to load, and streaming content buffers more than it should on a proper connection. Sound quality ranges from merely thin to outright terrible, with dialogue often getting lost under background music. These sets struggle with HDR content, turning what should be vibrant highlights into washed-out, muddy images. When problems develop, and they will, finding support becomes an exercise in frustration. Warranty claims get bounced between the retailer and whatever manufacturer actually produced that particular unit. Westinghouse trades entirely on nostalgia, and that's an expensive mistake for anyone expecting actual quality. This brings us to another budget brand with similar reliability concerns. At number 9 sits Element, a brand that looks presentable on the shelf until you actually use it daily. Element positions itself as the practical choice, the no-frills option that gets the job done without unnecessary features. The reality is panels so inconsistent that buying one feels like playing television roulette. Color accuracy varies dramatically between units. Some manage acceptable reproduction. Others make everything look like it's been filmed through dirty glass. Dark scene performance is particularly poor, with blacks that lean gray and shadow detail that simply disappears. Motion handling during sports or action content creates blur that makes fast movement look like someone smeared petroleum jelly across the screen. Many Element models are rebranded generic units from rotating production facilities, which explains why parts availability becomes a nightmare when something breaks. If a component fails, finding replacements often proves impossible because the supply chain simply doesn't exist for these orphaned products. The panels themselves age poorly, with brightness dropping noticeably over the first 2 years and colors gradually shifting toward washed-out, undersaturated appearance. One technician described Element televisions as scratch-off lottery tickets. You might get lucky, but the odds favor disappointment. The pattern continues with another name that promises more than it delivers. Number 8 is On, Walmart's house brand that exists purely to hit the lowest possible price point. These televisions are built with bottom-tier components selected entirely for cost, not performance or longevity. The LED backlights use cheap arrays that fail prematurely, sometimes within the first year. When the backlight goes, the entire panel becomes useless because repair costs exceed the purchase price. You're not buying a television, you're renting one until it inevitably dies. Build quality feels immediately cheap when you handle it. The frame flexes more than it should, stands wobble, and door bins crack under normal use. Picture quality manages basic functionality in ideal conditions, but place it in a bright room, and suddenly you're squinting at a dim, washed out mess. Color accuracy is poor enough that skin tones look unnatural and vibrant content appears muted. The sound system produces thin, tinny audio that makes dialogue hard to understand without cranking the volume uncomfortably high. Smart features run on underpowered processors that struggle with basic tasks. Apps crash randomly, menus freeze, and updates, if they come at all, often make performance worse rather than better. Most ON buyers end up purchasing separate streaming devices just to make basic functionality work properly, which defeats the entire purpose of buying an inexpensive smart television. If you want to avoid these kinds of expensive mistakes, subscribe to stay ahead of the bad purchases that waste your money. Moving to number 7, we find RCA, once a pioneering American brand, now reduced to a logo slapped on offshore manufacturing. RCA built its reputation decades ago with quality products that lasted. That company no longer exists. What remains is a licensed name used by whoever's willing to pay for it, with no connection to the original engineering standards. Today's RCA televisions use outdated panel technology that can't compete with modern standards. Colors look flat, contrast is weak, and viewing angles are so narrow that picture quality degrades noticeably if you're sitting anywhere except directly in front. The panels themselves fail at concerning rates. Owners consistently report issues developing within the first year, colors washing out, brightness dropping, sound developing buzzing or crackling that makes viewing unpleasant. When these televisions fail, and they do regularly, support is virtually non-existent. The licensed nature of the brand means no one actually takes responsibility for warranty claims or repairs. You're left with an expensive paperweight and no recourse. Smart features run on platforms so outdated they feel like stepping back a decade. Limited app selection, sluggish performance, and interfaces that make simple tasks needlessly complicated. RCA survives purely on older buyers remembering the original brand and assuming that quality continues. It doesn't. You're paying for nostalgia and getting cheap electronics that won't last. The problems persist as we examine another disappointing option. At number 6 is Insignia, Best Buy's house brand that looks like a smart value until you live with it. Insignia exists to offer Best Buy's customers an inexpensive option that keeps them in store rather than shopping elsewhere. These televisions are built to hit specific price points, not performance standards. The panels max out at HDR10, which sounds acceptable until you see how it actually performs compared to Dolby Vision on better sets. Colors appear noticeably flatter, contrast lacks depth, and brightness can't keep up in well-lit rooms. Forget cinematic viewing, this is more like watching through a screen door. Dark scenes that should create atmosphere instead become murky gray messes because Insignia skips local dimming entirely. Build quality reflects the budget nature. Components feel cheaper than they should, remotes often stop working within months, and connections develop problems that require constant attention. The smart platform crashes regularly, forcing endless restarts just to watch basic content. Most concerning is how these televisions age. First-year performance, already mediocre, degrades noticeably by year 2. Brightness drops, colors shift, and software becomes so sluggish that basic navigation turns frustrating. When problems develop, Best Buy's support proves limited. Warranty coverage sounds decent until you discover how many common failures aren't actually included. You end up paying for repairs on a television that wasn't worth buying in the first place. Another brand struggling with consistency takes the number 5 spot. JVC once built legendary audio equipment and cameras, but their television division has become an afterthought in the US market. The core problem is inconsistency. JVC doesn't maintain unified manufacturing or quality standards across their line. Depending on where and when you buy, you might get completely different components and performance levels. Some models use Roku, others Fire TV. Some use obscure platforms that feel like they were cobbled together in a basement. That means two JVC televisions sitting side by side in the same store could provide completely different user experiences. Picture quality varies just as wildly. Some units manage acceptable brightness and color. Others arrive with panels that look dim and washed out regardless of settings. Sports and action content shows motion blur that makes fast movement look smeared and unclear. Black levels are universally shallow, making dark scenes look like gray fog rather than true darkness. Build quality feels flimsy across the board. Frames flex, stands wobble, bezels crack under minimal pressure. Audio quality is consistently poor, producing weak, thin sound that requires soundbar purchase to make dialogue intelligible. When these televisions develop problems, and many do within the first year, finding support becomes nearly impossible. JVC doesn't maintain strong US presence, so warranty help is essentially non-existent. You're left troubleshooting problems yourself, or paying for repairs that cost more than the television is worth. The reliability issues continue as we reach number 4. Toshiba lands here because they're coasting on a reputation they no longer earn. Toshiba was once a household name in electronics, but those days are gone. The brand is now owned by Hisense and operates primarily as a vehicle for Amazon's Fire TV platform. The smart features work smoothly enough if you're invested in Amazon's ecosystem, but the hardware can't keep up with the software. Panels are mid-tier at best, lacking the brightness, contrast, and color accuracy of competitors at similar prices. Dark scenes look muddy, bright content appears washed out, and viewing angles are limited. The build quality reflects cost-cutting, with components that feel cheaper than they should and construction that doesn't inspire confidence. Common problems include dead pixels developing early, panels showing uniformity issues that create blotchy appearance, and connections failing without warning. When issues arise, Toshiba's customer support proves unhelpful. Warranty claims get deflected, replacement parts take weeks to arrive if they come at all, and repair costs often exceed what makes economic sense. The Fire TV interface is the only real advantage, but you can get that same experience on better hardware from other brands or by adding a streaming stick to any television. Toshiba is trying to survive on name recognition and Amazon integration, but neither compensates for hardware that consistently disappoints. We're not done with disappointing brands yet, as number 3 demonstrates. Philips holds this position, but only the US version. This requires explanation because Philips creates significant confusion for buyers. In Europe, Philips is a respected premium brand producing excellent televisions with features like Ambilight that enhance viewing. In the United States, the Philips name is licensed to Funai, a company producing budget-level sets with no connection to European Philips quality. What you see in American stores has nothing to do with the premium reputation Philips enjoys overseas. It's like buying what you think is a luxury vehicle and discovering you've actually purchased a budget model with a fancy badge glued on. The panels use inferior technology that can't match brightness or color accuracy of true premium brands. Smart features run on outdated platforms that feel sluggish and crash regularly. Menus lag badly enough that you'll think the television is frozen. Apps buffer even on strong connections, and the interface feels like it was designed years ago and never updated. Build quality reflects the budget nature with components that feel cheap and construction that doesn't inspire confidence. These televisions age poorly, with brightness dropping noticeably over the first year and colors gradually washing out. Support proves minimal because Funai doesn't prioritize the US market. Updates are rare, customer service is unhelpful, and warranty claims get bounced around until you give up. Philips is a perfect example of how brand names can mislead buyers who assume reputation transfers across markets. The next brand shows how even recognizable names can disappoint. Vizio takes the number 2 spot, and this hurts because they used to be the budget champion everyone recommended. Back in the 2000s and early 2000s, Vizio offered the best value in televisions, delivering quality picture at prices major brands couldn't match. Those days are over. Vizio's manufacturing quality has declined noticeably, while competitors like TCL and Hisense have improved. The panels still offer decent picture quality when they work properly, but durability has become a serious concern. Owners report issues developing within the first couple years: dimming zones that flicker randomly, backlights that wear prematurely, and panels that refuse to turn on without warning. The SmartCast platform, Vizio's proprietary system, has become a reliability nightmare. Updates break features that worked fine before, apps crash constantly, menus lag badly, and the remote often stops responding for no clear reason. Many Vizio owners end up purchasing separate streaming devices just to avoid dealing with SmartCast, which defeats the purpose of buying a smart television. When problems develop, Vizio's support proves inconsistent at best. Some customers get help quickly, others wait weeks for responses that don't solve the actual problems. Warranty coverage includes numerous exclusions that leave common failures uncovered. Vizio isn't the worst option available, but it's no longer the budget champion it once was. Better alternatives exist at similar or lower prices with fewer reliability concerns. And finally, at number 1, the absolute worst choice you can make. Hisense takes the top spot for brands to avoid, and this might surprise people who've seen their aggressive marketing. Hisense has spent heavily promoting themselves as the value option that competes with premium brands. The reality doesn't match the advertising. Their panels use technologies that sound impressive: ULED, quantum dots, mini LED, but implementation quality varies wildly. Some units perform acceptably, others arrive with uniformity issues that create blotchy appearance, brightness that can't sustain HDR content, and colors that shift depending on viewing angle. Build quality is consistently poor across their line. Frames feel flimsy, stands wobble excessively, bezels crack under normal handling. Audio quality is terrible regardless of price point, producing weak, thin sound that makes soundbar purchase mandatory. The real problem is reliability. Hisense televisions fail at rates that suggest inadequate quality control. Common issues include panels developing dead pixels within months, backlights failing prematurely, connections stopping work randomly, and entire units refusing to power on. When these problems arise, Hisense's support proves essentially useless. Warranty claims get denied over technicalities, repair parts take weeks or months to arrive, and customer service representatives offer generic troubleshooting that rarely solves actual problems. Software updates are irregular and often introduce new problems rather than fixing existing ones. Hisense positions itself as the smart budget choice, but in reality, you're gambling with money you can't afford to lose. Better options exist at every price point that offer more reliability and better support. Now, for the two brands that actually earn your investment. At number 2 sits Sony, a company that's maintained quality standards while others cut corners. Sony doesn't chase the lowest price or the flashiest features. They focus on what actually matters: picture quality that remains excellent years after purchase. Their processing technology takes content and makes it look better than it does on competing televisions. Motion handling is exceptionally smooth, color accuracy is industry-leading, and upscaling makes lower resolution content look surprisingly good. The panels themselves are built to last, maintaining brightness and color consistency long after cheaper televisions have degraded noticeably. Build quality is immediately apparent when you handle a Sony television. Components feel substantial, construction is solid, and everything from the remote to the stand reflects attention to detail. Smart features run smoothly on Google TV platform with regular updates that actually improve performance. When problems do occur, which is rare, Sony's customer service responds quickly and handles claims professionally. The price point is higher than budget brands, but you're paying for reliability and longevity that budget options can't match. Sony televisions routinely last 8 to 10 years with performance that remains excellent throughout their lifespan. And taking the number 1 spot for brands worth buying, LG remains the gold standard in 2026. LG's OLED technology delivers picture quality that other brands still can't match. Each pixel lights independently, creating perfect blacks, infinite contrast, and colors that look exactly as they should. Dark scenes show detail that disappears on LED televisions. Bright content has impact without looking over-processed, and viewing angles remain perfect no matter where you sit. The WebOS Smart Platform is clean, intuitive, and actually pleasant to use. Updates arrive regularly and improve functionality rather than breaking it. Build quality is excellent across their line, with components that feel premium and construction that inspires confidence. Gaming features are particularly strong, with HDMI 2.1 support, variable refresh rates, and response times that make these televisions ideal for console gaming. Durability has improved significantly over earlier OLED generations. Burn-in concerns, while not completely eliminated, are far less common than critics suggest with normal viewing patterns. When support is needed, LG responds quickly and handles warranty claims fairly. The price reflects the premium nature, but the value over time justifies the investment. An LG television will still look excellent 5 years from now when budget brands have already been replaced. Even knowing which brands to trust, most buyers still choose models within those brands that develop problems months later. That's the critical decision that determines whether your television lasts years or disappoints quickly.